Some say this rivalry is the best in the NFL. Some say this rivalry is defining the AFC North. A matchup known for its physicality and is also known for taking years off fans' lives for its down-to-the-wire finishes. This is Steelers versus Ravens, and this is why this means more. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens were immediately rivals when the Cleveland Browns were moved to Baltimore, Maryland in 1996 and became the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns historically are the Steelers' biggest rivals, but when the Ravens were put into the AFC North in 2001, the rivalry really began. However, very quickly, the Ravens were something that the Browns weren't. They were good. This rivalry became about smash mouth football, running the ball on offense, playing physical defense, and whoever still stood still at the very end won. Through the innovation of modern football, we've gone way towards passing and less physicality, but you can still see old school football twice a year when these two match up. There are tons of all-time classic moments from this rivalry, like Ravens defensive end Haloti Ngata breaking Ben Roethlisberger's nose in 2010.
Do you have a favorite hit, tackle, sack while you're with the Ravens?
I think you saw in the highlight. It's
one of those.
Yeah, breaking Ben's nose, and I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but it kind of just happened.
There's the Mike Tomlin trip in 2013. There's the Immaculate Extension in 2016. But most known is Troy Polamalu's pick six against the Ravens in the AFC Championship game in 2008, propelling the Steelers to the Super Bowl, which they eventually won. All of this was adding up to be the perfect Thanksgiving night game. This is the time of year to gather around a table with gigantic meals of turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes, all while celebrating what you're most thankful for and spending time with the people you love the most. Except for that one cousin, you know that cousin. God, he sucks. Well, COVID kind of wrecked that, Thanksgiving and football. The Ravens currently have 20 players on the COVID list, including MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson. This has forced the NFL to postpone the game originally until Sunday and now till Tuesday. The Steelers were also hit with 5 COVID cases, with one player testing positive, which was running back James Conner, and one coach, special teams coach Danny Smith. The Steelers still remain undefeated, and they just got by Baltimore a few weeks ago. We were hoping to see MVP Lamar Jackson go up against the best defense in the NFL, and now it looks like even if we get a game, we're getting Robert Griffin III versus the Steelers defense, minus possibly Stephon Tuitt. However, if the game's canceled, the NFL could be moving to an 8-team playoff for each conference, which would mean that the Steelers could have the number 1 seed, literally go undefeated, and not have a bye week in the playoffs. Now with this controversy, I wanted to bring on some fans because this is what this show is about, the fans, to highlight this rivalry. And I interviewed 2 amazing guests for the show. First up is Edward Vega, the Steelers fan that went viral last week. Here's what he had to say about his love for the Steelers, his love for his hometown, and this week's game. I hope you enjoy. I am joined by Ed Vega, the Steelers superfan that was caught on television last week in Jacksonville, sporting the absolute biggest Steeler chain I think I've ever seen in my entire life, Steeler tattoos, and has become a viral sensation. Ed, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, been a lot going on this week, but I'm good.
Yeah. So how is being a viral sensation this week? How does that feel?
It's been fun. I mean, it's exciting. It's like every day something new will pop up. You know, sports talk. I got interviewed by Sports Talk Radio on Monday, and then the local news, and then the day after that, you know, you're hitting me up, and a Barstool's Unit podcast hit me up. I'm just like, dude, this is wild. But I'm gonna take it, man. Whatever I could get, I'm gonna take it.
Absolutely, I don't blame you whatsoever. So tell me your story exactly. How you became a Steelers fan? Are you from Pittsburgh? How exactly did everything happen?
Yeah, I'm not from Pittsburgh. I'm from Bakersfield, California. Born and raised here. My dad was a Steeler fan. He's probably a bigger Steeler than me, which is kind of might be crazy to think about, but he's bigger than I am. It just so happened to be that I was on TV, and I didn't really have a choice growing up. You know, it was Steeler fan or nothing. You know, watch the Steelers or you don't get to watch football type of thing. And so, I was a Steelers fan. I grew up playing, football, and Steelers were the thing to watch, and I loved it, and I still do.
Absolutely. So, like, how did the Steeler tattoos come apart? Like, you got the coolest Steeler tattoos, I think, and one in particular, because me starting out, I'm very similar to you. I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I grew up, and my dad was a Steelers fan. He was with Jack Lambert's nephew. He grew up with Jack Lambert's nephew, so it was Steelers.
Okay.
I didn't have a choice in the matter, but I switched to other teams in other sports, but I know no matter what, whether my dad was a Steelers fan or not, I was going to be a Steelers fan because of Dan Rooney. I absolutely love Dan. So I'm interested to hear about your Steeler tattoos, and particularly that Dan Rooney one, because that one was sweet.
Yeah, so very first tattoo I ever got, I was 20 years old, and it was just the basic Steeler emblem without the circle. My wife actually paid for it when I think I was 20. I think it was for my 20th birthday. We paid that. It was super basic. I loved it, though. It was huge. It stood out because it was on my chest, and I rarely wear a shirt. I know I'm wearing one now, but I had to go to the store, and they usually don't let me in with no shirt.
Sure.
So, I loved it. And then later on, as I grew up, I was like, I want to do more to this. I want to add. I started having the idea of, okay, I want to add the Super Bowl, Roman numerals around it. And then, once Dan Rooney passed away and I saw that patch on the Steelers jersey, I told my wife, as soon as I can, it's on my chest. And so I happened to go to Pittsburgh for my 30th birthday, and I thought, well, 10 years later, here we go. Walked into Pittsburgh Tattoo Company and said, hey, man, I want to get this clover. And I think it took about 20, 25 minutes, and I was out. And it was
Really?
on me. And there it is. Yeah. He was good. I can't remember his name. It was 3 years ago. I can't remember the dude's name, but he was really good. It was fast. It came out lovely. And then after that, I came home and I told the original guy who did the Steelers tattoo, I said, hey, I want to kind of fix this up a little bit. I'm gonna make it, look just as good as the clover. And so we redid the color, and he redid the outlining, and he put some more shading into it. And I said, let's put the Roman numerals around it and kind of fill it in.
That's beautiful, man. I love the tattoos. I love the gigantic chain. Where did you get the gigantic chain at?
I got it in Vegas on Fremont Street. It was like some little corner vendor. I spent $50 on it.
Nice. So being from Bakersfield, how are you at the Jacksonville Jaguars game? What happened there?
So my dad was going to that game, and he had planned it, way ahead of time. He was like, I'm going. The tickets are cheap. I'm out. And I was all right. And probably a week before, he said, hey, tickets are still cheap. You want to go? And I was like, let me look at some financials and see if I can make that happen. And he was like, dude, plane tickets are $80. It'd be like a 160 round trip. And I said, you know what? I got that. So let's go. And so we went out there and had fun.
That's hard to beat, man. So I seen on your Twitter that you were a former high school coach. Are you still coaching high school football? How's that going?
No, I coached high school football out here for about 5 years. Offensive line, defensive line. Then I became a defense coordinator. And then I had to I was working at the school I was coaching at, and I had to leave that school. And then they were doing a head coaching change at the same time. So I said, you know what? I'm not really feeling a new coach, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my time to step out.
Makes sense. Now, you being coaching offensive line, how was it getting Zach Banner to say that you were his spirit animal? And have you had any other crazy Steeler or Steeler fan interactions that have happened this week?
Yeah, so to see that, my sister, I think my sister was the first one to tag me in it. And I was like, my mind was going wild inside. I didn't really freak out, physically or yell or anything like that. But in my mind, so many thoughts are going through my head. I'm like, this is the dude that I watched him play in college. He played, Cody Kessler was there for a year, I think, while he was there, or a couple of years while he was there. It was this is a dude that I've seen. He wore the same number that I did in high school. This was somebody I actually looked at, He was wearing 73 at USC, and I wore 73 all through high school, actually all the way through like prep football, I was wearing 73. So when I saw him at USC, that's what we do over here. Most of us watch USC football. And so we knew who that guy was. And when he went to Pittsburgh, I was loving it. And for him to say, hey, that's my spirit animal, I was mentally blown. I was just like freaking out inside, man.
So one thing that we like to do on this show, This Means More, is kind of talk about the fan interaction, kind of talk about the fan rivalries, and the rivalries as a whole. Right now, there is anything could change right now with the Steelers and Ravens because everything is going wild with it. But what's your take right now on the Steelers-Ravens rivalry? What's some of your favorite moments, and what do you think about it being pushed back to Tuesday?
Yeah, so I'll start there. I'll start with it being pushed back. When it originally got pushed back, I mean, my very first response, I was mad because when you look at the schedule in April and May, and you see that you have a Thanksgiving Day game with the Ravens, it's probably the best rivalry we've had in a very long time. They're always good games. It doesn't matter what the record is. They are always good games to watch, and there is no better football than that on a Thanksgiving Day. So, of course, I planned my Thanksgiving around that. So my first response was like, man, this sucks. Well, now what am I going to do for Thanksgiving? I don't even want people over now. We're going to have to do something else. I don't want nobody to come over here. But then I thought about it, and my mind went to this. If they don't push it back and then they play on Thursday, that means that they were probably last days go with testing. And then you're going to have players who probably had it that we don't know who had it. And now next week we go in, and now Steeler players are dropping like flies, and we don't get to play Washington, and then that goes into the Colts game, and so for me, I'm like, you know what, push it back, or actually forfeit it right now, because the rule is if you have to reschedule a game, you are supposed to actually forfeit. That's what the NFL said they were going to do. They want to forfeit it. They could discipline you. Whether they discipline or not, it should have been forfeited, especially now that you're saying I'll push it back to Sunday, and then I'm going to push it back to Tuesday. Now you're rescheduling two different games because they're supposed to play a game on Thursday.
Yep. And
so for me, it's like at this point, just forfeit it, and let's be done.
Ravens are getting rescheduled to Monday's game, the Ravens and Cowboys, while the Steelers still play on Sunday. So that's not exactly – I don't see how that's exactly fair for the Steelers there.
But exactly. I don't – go ahead.
But no, I was just going to go into this the Steelers-Ravens rivalry. What's some of your favorite moments? Still in this week, I'm interviewing James Wexell, who just wrote the Troy Polamalu biography, and I think Troy is a very important guy for this rivalry. What's some of your favorite moments of Steelers-Ravens?
Troy's definitely he had some huge plays,
and USC
fumble, and yeah. I mean, you're talking interception, but my favorite, probably my two top Baltimore Ravens plays were Ryan Clark in 2008 when he took out Willis McGahee in the middle of the field. It was probably the most excited I had been. Like there, I mean, in that game you're going back and forth, and when he hit him like that, I jumped out my seat and I was screaming like if I made that play, you know what I mean? And then probably more recently would be the Immaculate Extension. That game was freaking crazy. You got Weddle pulling on the face mask. There's no flag there, but hey, whatever. This guy reached out against everything that was going on and still made that happen. And that was fun. That was real fun.
Absolutely. I think the Troy pick six, also one of the most infamous is going to be the Mike Tomlin, Jacoby Jones. Ravens fans are still going to be very mad about the Tomlin situation.
Yeah. I agree with that. That little step was nice, but like I said, those are my two favorite because there was just, I don't know, there was just it got me going more than anything else that I've been that I've seen.
So growing up, who's your favorite Steeler? What's your favorite Steeler moment?
So growing up, I was a huge Jerome Bettis fan. I had his jersey. I wore it, everywhere. I played at the park. I played wherever I was playing. I was in a Jerome Bettis jersey. Growing up, I think my dad, they had a local Steeler. I think it was called the Golden Black and Gold Brigade, if I remember correctly. It was local here. It was pretty big. A lot of Steeler fans would come from outside of actual Bakersfield to come watch a game at a bar and grill here in town, and it was huge. And they would, the games were always fun. They were loud, and then a lot of times those after a football game, after watching a football game, they'd go to the park and barbecue, and then we'd play our own game. So growing up, that's what I remember. That's what all the Steeler fans, always loud, always having fun. Everybody would, stay together and go have more fun at the park with their kids, and that's what I remember growing up. Those were my favorite memories.
So the Steelers fandom, the Steelers fan base in California and Bakersfield is pretty good.
Yes, it's huge. I've gone up and down California a lot, like just traveling, for like work and stuff like that. And and there's not one place that I've been that you can't find a Steeler bar.
Yeah, I would agree. I live in Columbus, and we probably sell more Steeler merch in Columbus than we do Browns or Bengals. I used to work at a sports authority, exactly. And everyone got mad about that because we sold more Steelers than anything else.
Yeah. It was. I mean, just in Jacksonville, we were walking into the game, and they had a whole tent, and it was all Steeler stuff. All Steeler merch.
I'm interested. What was the percentage you think of Steelers to Jacksonville fans? Because Jacksonville fans were getting ripped that there was not many of their own fans there.
Just off the top of my head, I would easily say like an 80-20. Like it was.
Really?
I don't remember. Yeah, walking through the parking lot, I think I remember seeing. Our parking lot, there was no Jags fans. The parking lot next to there was one, and then one more up, there was another family, but they were mixed in with Steeler fans. And as you walk through, all you see is black and yellow, black and yellow everywhere. And so, I would easily say, 75, maybe 75% Steeler fans at best.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? The lowest that I would go, it was nuts. I mean, the guy next to me literally got on his phone, video chatted somebody and said, bro, I got to show you what it's like. He says, there is nothing but black and yellow around here. And he's like, and it's ridiculous. And so he was like showing his buddy, and he's like, look at this dude. He's got this chain. He's got this outfit on. And then he's like, and then as he's showing that video, or as he's, FaceTiming his buddy, something huge goes on. And I think it was like a turnover, and it just erupted. And so now he's like, look, and it was nothing but terrible towels that were moving around.
So when did you see that you were had gone viral? When did it hit you? Because when they showed you on television, it was like 5 to 10 minutes on Twitter. You were huge.
That's probably about how fast I got it. So I got hey, bro, I think I just saw you on TV. And then I started laughing. I was like, oh, no way. And then they sent me a screenshot. It was like, yep, it was you. And then after that, yep, it was you. It was literally 5 minutes before I saw that I was on Barstools. And then that went crazy. And then everywhere. And I started having people actually find me in the stadium and say, bro, I just saw you on Barstools. We got to take a picture. I had people saying, hey, my dad just sent me this. My brother just sent me this. Like, we thought that we wouldn't be able to find you. And I'm just, walking, and they happen to see me. And they're like, bro, we just saw you. Or my mom sent me this. Or my cousin sent me this. Like, I got to take a picture with you. I got to drink a beer with you. I got it. And that happened as soon as the game was over. It happened from my seat all the way back to our car. Like, it took probably just as long as the game to get back to our car because everybody wanted to take pictures, or people were giving us beers, or people, take a shot or do this. And so, like I said, if you're going to give it to me, I'm taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a NFL Fans Hall of Fame. How can we get you into the Fans Hall of Fame? Because you got to be in the Fans Hall of Fame for the NFL.
I do not know. I did enter. The entry was just, put my email down, my contact information, and then fill out a why I should be a Steeler fan. And I just, put just I think it was 90 words that I put on there, but there's no tag Ford or tag this. So I'm just I put it on Twitter, and I put it on I believe I put it on my Instagram. And I'm just dude, let's just start tagging these people so that they see me and they see my name, because I've got to get in the mix for the Hall of Fans.
Absolutely. So I'm going to link down your Twitter. I'm going to link your Instagram. And also, just for everyone here, I'm going to be voting for you for the Fan Hall of Fame because I think that has to happen. So everyone on here should vote for Edward Vega for the Fans Hall of Fame because I don't see how you're not the number one choice here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. I'm looking at someone like the old guys, and I'm like, dude, I could beat them. You know what I mean? Like, you could put me in any class, and I'm still first. Like, get me in the mix.
I mean, I love it. You're wearing the Steelers hat. You still got the overalls, which I absolutely love. You're decked out for the Steelers.
Yeah. So this is pretty normal. I know. Like, I was laughing because like I know when people just took a glimpse, you're like, what the hell is this guy wearing? But that is something like when I came home, my family and friends were like, dude. Like, they just don't understand. Like, this has been you forever. Like, it wasn't fake. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to put on a costume. That is, I mean, like I said, other than the chain, I wear overalls on the regular. I have a work pair of overalls. I work for the railroad, so I have, a pair of overalls for work. I have a pair of overalls that I cook in because I also cook on the side, like, for little events and stuff like that. So I have overalls for that. I have nice overalls, these are the nice ones, and they're shorts. I cut those ones into shorts. So I walk around and short overalls all the time.
I think that this just shows, like, this video right here shows that you are what we saw in that picture. I think that I hope that this video shows, once again, that this is confirmation that you are what that photo showed and that you have every Steelers fan, you are that every Steelers fan energy there. So I thank you. I thank you for listening. If you want to have anything else that you want to say, go right ahead.
No, I don't. I just want to say this. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who's reaching out their hand and giving me an opportunity to tell my story or listen to me or want to know why or want to know how. I mean, I love it. I love to be able to, be able to say Bakersfield, California on different, different platforms. That right there, I have people going crazy just because they're listening to something somewhere else and all they hear is Bakersfield, California. And I mean, it gets my family and some friends just pumped to hear my voice. So I just appreciate all the opportunities. I'll take anything that you want to give me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I will take this for as long as I can. I just want everybody to know that when I do, I appreciate it. And it's with genuine love when I take these things on.
Absolutely. I love that. This right here is for the fans. This means more. Yes, it's highlighting rivalries, but there's no rivalry. There's no kind of enthusiasm than without the fans. And Steeler fans they make a crowd. And I think that you absolutely embody a Steeler fan. So I thank you for coming on here. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. I'll do my best to have the hopefully, like I said, hopefully it's just forfeited. Steelers get to, rest up, and then we go on to the week.
Absolutely.
And then I think my week will be great.
And make sure everyone to vote for Edward Vega for the NFL Fan Hall of Fame, because if he's not in there, then it's like not having Macho Man in the Hall of Fame in WWE when he wasn't in yet. It's trash.
Exactly. We got to make this happen. We've got to make that happen.
Thank you for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And my next interview is Jim Wexell, who has a new biography on maybe the most impactful player from this entire rivalry's history, Troy Polamalu. It's a long chat, but there's so many good things that this interview has in it, from Troy saving lives to the only time that Troy Polamalu cursed on the field, Polamalu's heritage, the unknown prankster that he is, and what he did on the night that he retired after his game. I am here with the publisher of Steel City Insider at 24/7 Sports, longtime Pittsburgh Steelers beat writer and author of his new book, Polamalu, Jim Wexell. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. The orders are just flying in. I self-published that book, so I'm doing all the work. That's why my daughter's over tonight, because she was going to help me. But it's an organizational, it just went on sale. I just got a big shipment in of books. And it's a heavy book. It is I got them. They're everywhere.
430 pages, right?
430 pages. I mean, this thing, it is really well put together. That's a really cool photo. And you got your spine, and then the hair is in the back. So, but also, if you take this cover off, this dang thing, I mean, it's thick, and it's like a Bible. It's like, this is the Steeler Bible from that last decade. That's pretty much why it's 430 pages. They went to 3 Super Bowls, and
Right.
I got, Alan Faneca tells me a story about Russ Grimm saying, hey, Chucky Jacoby got hurt. This is during the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. Their backup center got hurt, and their starting center was limping, Jeff Hardings. And they told Faneca, who's a guard, they said, go warm up with Ben. This is the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. Faneca said, I'm not doing that. Nervous, he dropped some F-bombs, and Russ said, go down and talk to Ben. Go with Ben. I tell you, get some snaps. And Faneca just gets up and goes down, and Ben's like, what the F do you want? He goes, Russ wants me to take snaps with you because Chucky got hurt. Ben said, Ben jumped up, I'm not doing that. And Alan said, that's what I told him. Alan said, so I just told Jeff Hardings, the center, said, Jeff, you're not leaving this game. Lean on me if you have to, but you're not leaving. I am not taking my first center snaps in my life in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl. And nothing came of it. And it had nothing to do with Troy Polamalu, but I cut it because my editor said, this is a cool story, but it don't fit. So I cut it. I told we have offensive linemen all over the place in radio media, ex-Steeler offensive linemen. They're the smart guys, They really get the game, and they're good communicators. And they love that story. You got to put it back in. So I put it back in. But that's the kind of stuff, there's better stuff from behind the scenes that had nothing to do with Troy, but it's 3 Super Bowl runs they had. It's the book for that era. Like Jerry Kramer's book, and I know it's like invoking God's name here. Of books, the Instant Replay book from the 60s. It was about Jerry Kramer, right? But it was about the Packer dynasty, So that's what I'm hoping this takes off like, and that's why there's so many pages. But I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, it was a defense-driven team, and Polamalu is the only Hall of Famer on that defense. He's going to be the only Hall of Famer. So he was the guiding spirit. And then we get into a conversation. Could we call him the Holy Spirit of that team? And I asked the more religious guys. Some of them didn't like that. Some of them said, that's spot on. That's exactly what he was. The small voice of God. That's what he was, a real light talker, but when he talked, everybody listened.
I think, and I was going to get this into this later, but it's kind of perfect to just transition to it now. I think that Polamalu is probably the embodiment of what the Steelers are, especially for this last decade, is that it's, I won't necessarily say lunch pail guy, but a hard worker, isn't loud in the media, and is maybe, and maybe you can attest to this a little bit better, maybe the best safety of all time, at least in the conversation of best safety of all time.
Sure. Best strong safety. It's hard. It's hard to say you're better than Ed Reed as a safety, and he's the best free safety. Yeah. Well, there are some guys you could argue, and I threw them in there, and we had some guys that could compare. Dennis Thurman coached Troy at USC his first 2 years. And in Troy's second 2 years, Dennis Thurman got hired by the Ravens and coached Ed Reed. And he played with Ronnie Lott at USC. So he gave me some great insight. Ryan Clark was in high school down in Louisiana with Ed Reed. He said, I'd pick off 2 passes, return 1 for a touchdown. I'd run home to see who was named the Friday night star of the week. Ed Reed, 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns every time. I knew I was going to do this 10 years ago. I've been trying to get Troy. Troy would keep saying, give me 5 years. I haven't done anything with my life yet. I said, well, you're the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year. but he wants to feed all the starving children or something. He wants to do something really worthwhile that's worthy of a book in his mind.
Right.
I'm like, Troy, no one's going to buy the book if you save the island of Samoa. Nobody cares. They want to know about you hitting Joe Flacco,
Right.
So he never really participated other than 12 years of serious interviews with me. We had a great relationship. He called me when he retired to give me the story. And he said, let me know when you write your story, and then I'll call Mr. Rooney to tell him I'm retiring. That's the kind of guy he is.
Wow. Who were some of the people, because I know that you've had tons of interviews in this book, who's some of the people, because I don't want to give everything away for the book. I want people to buy the book. But who are some people that you interviewed for this book? You already mentioned Alan Faneca as one that's very interesting. I seen on a photo that there was already Bill Cowher, who was an interview, which I think that he would obviously be a great character to listen to. Who else?
Well, Bill Cowher starts the book because he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he said he was standing at a bar. He goes, and you won't believe who walked up to me. I said, Coach, Dexter Jackson. I don't know if you remember Dexter Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Jackson was a free agent safety. The Steelers had a big need for safety coming into the 2003 draft. And Dexter Jackson was their primary target. They brought him in. He agreed just about. They had to go through some finer details of the contract. So the Steelers, Bill Cowher and Kevin Colbert, pulled out of going to watch Polamalu at USC and went to watch a running back at Colorado named Chris Brown. So they get to Colorado. Kevin Colbert gets out and checks his messages. We had to call to check his messages. Message said, we lost Dexter Jackson. He decided to go to Arizona. And Cowher apparently ripped into Dexter Jackson's agent at the Colorado Pro Day the next day. And, Cowher's, everybody knows that because of Dexter Jackson pulling out, that they changed back to Polamalu. They would have never had Polamalu if it wasn't for Dexter Jackson pulling out over a few $1,000s.
Wow.
And a little later in the book, when I opened with that, and then there's a great draft story about who convinced Cowher to trade up. It's a great story. I don't want to ruin it. By a low-level assistant coach. And so his name's Mike Miller. He went on to be offensive coordinator for the Cardinals with Kurt Warner and Larry Fitz. So he told a great story about the draft. And that was my first chapter. What I wanted, I like the style where they give you a great first chapter. And then chapter 2 is Troy Polamalu's grandpa was born in the island of Samoa. We'll start with the ancestry, and then we go through high school and all the way back up. So I wanted that first chapter to be something about the pick 6 against Joe Flacco in the AFC Championship game. I thought there might be a behind the scenes. There's no behind the scenes. It's just people commented on it. They talked about it. It's good, but no grabbing story like what I found on draft day. Draft night, draft eve. So I used that as my first chapter. And then the second chapter went into the ancestry, Samoa, how he's from the Polynesian god. And a friend said, don't bring this up to Troy. He does not like this topic. He's a descendant of a great Samoan king. And you never heard of that because Troy never wanted anybody to know that. And this king was supposedly came from the god who made the universe. So Troy is from the gods. And is anyone surprised? No. But Troy, do not talk to him about that. So I get in that, and then I go back, but just to finish my story about Dexter Jackson. So I get back, go through the college years, and now we're in the draft again. And I've got other guys, Ray Horton became his DB coach, but he was with Detroit. He was trying to convince the Lions to draft Troy with the second pick of the draft instead of Charles Rogers. And he said he got laughed out of the room. And he told him, he says, you watch, Troy Polamalu will have more catches in this league than Charlie Rogers. I hope you don't remember Charlie Rogers. You in Minnesota, you might.
Yep.
Yeah, but Charlie Rogers had one more catch than Troy had interceptions. Joey Porter is the funniest swearer.
I'm so happy. A little story about myself is when I was playing football, the first time I ever had a practice, I got drafted by the team that was supposedly going to be the worst team and my coach was a big Browns fan. And I line up at safety. I'm a small guy, so I line up at safety, and I start to blitz. And he stops the play, and he goes, "Pearson, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm blitzing." And he goes, "What safety do you know that blitzes?" And I go, "I only watch Troy Polamalu." And he goes, "Well, if you can blitz like Troy Polamalu, then you can blitz." Immediately, I get the sack. And he said, "You know what? I'm calling you Pittsburgh for the rest of this." Joey Porter, then I was like the cheerleader. I was the big rowdy guy. And then I eventually got the nickname Porter because I was rowdy like Joey Porter. So I am extremely excited to hear a Joey Porter interview because he's maybe my favorite Steeler of all time.
I forget where the heck I was in the stupid story I was telling, but I'll tell this old Joey Porter thing. You know, Troy had 3 sacks against Houston in 2005, early in the season. He wasn't yet a star, but he had a good 2004. And so early in 2005, he had that 3-sack game against Houston. And if you remember the 1 sack, he was in the middle of the line, started the blitz, turned around, pretended to run straight back like he often does, but then turned back around and got the quarterback. So he had mentioned to Joey in practice, "Joey, I have an idea for a blitz where I'll fake it in the middle, turn around, fake like I'm going back, and then come back and come again. And, you know, we can do it on the play where you're supposed to blitz. And you can instead drop back and cover." Joey goes, "You drop back and cover. Get your ass back there and cover your own guy. I'm not giving up my blitz. What are you, crazy? I don't do that." Troy said, "No, Joey, let's try it in practice to see how it works." And Joey said, "Okay, I'll let you do that." You know, Joey's the captain of that defense. So he's speaking as a captain. He goes, "Okay." He did that. He turned around. It came wide ass open. I said, "Okay, Troy, let's do it in the game." And he goes, "For me to give up my damn blitz?" You know, but Joey, all through before he got released, he was funny. He was the leader. He was, you know, him talking about Keenan McCardle. Apparently, Troy only swore on the field 1 time with Keenan McCardle. It was in Atlanta, not Atlanta, San Diego. Keenan played for San Diego. It was the game James Harrison intercepted a pass and hurdled a defender, if you remember, an offensive player. Well, apparently Troy got into it with Keenan McCardle and swore and was screaming at McCardle. They had never heard Troy so fired up. Joey's like, "I don't even know what happened. I don't want to know, but I want to break Keenan McCardle's hands because he's got Troy was swearing."
Yeah.
Something bad happened, and now I told Casey, "You get him on the ground, I'll break his fingers." And Casey said, "Peasy, you can't do that, man." Peasy said, "Do it." And Peasy said, "Good thing it never happened because McCardle's a friend of mine." But I mean, Troy was mad. Something happened. So they're all explaining how he fired him up the rest of that game, things like that. Those in-game stories are just priceless, you know.
What is a chapter, a conversation, something that you think, regardless whether you're a Steelers fan or not, is absolutely must read from this book? Because what I get from it is you're getting a lot of information about Troy, which I don't think a lot of people have. So no matter what, I think it's worth $30. I think that's a steal. But what's something that just sticks out to you? I don't want you to give it fully away, but just a chapter, a conversation, something that just goes, you got to read this.
Yeah, you know, I hesitate to pick one. I don't know. It's just everything he did. For example, his last game, he didn't know it was his last game. They had lost the playoff game to the Ravens. Mm-hmm. He didn't play so well. I think he got banged up. This could be the regular season game against the Ravens. But he was with Uncle Kennedy, and Uncle Kennedy was talking about how Troy was just defeated and beat up and sad. But he kept having Kennedy stop the car on the way back from food because he wanted to feed the homeless. And Troy, if you read the whole book, you read that Troy always orders too much. He got fat after he retired, and nobody was surprised because they know how much he eats. He's always leaving restaurants with tons of food to bring back to his place. But when he sees a homeless person, he brings some of the food out and feeds them. And he kept stopping it. And he was not doing this for recognition from anybody because he was with his uncle and his wife. And there was nobody to impress. That's what he does. And so that just kind of ended the chapter beautifully. Even though it was a sad way to end it, it was his last game. Look what this guy's doing. He never stopped doing stuff like that. The chapter where I talked to some of the guys about his charitable works, which he would not let them talk about. Sorry. He did not like anybody to publicize that stuff. And he was relentless with that stuff. And that speaks a lot in itself where he wouldn't allow them to speak about it. It's all through the book, all of his good deeds. But it's not like we're writing about a saint because he was fun. Doug Legursky tells a story. If you remember Doug Legursky, a reserve lineman, he said, I was a rookie. I think it was 2008. And I was in the restroom, and there was an empty wall of urinals, right? So I'm standing at a urinal peeing, and in walks Troy. And he comes right to the urinal right next to me. And Legursky goes, I love Troy, but there's a man code. There's a guy code.
Yep.
Give at least one urinal space. But here's Troy, and I'm thinking, oh, he's just a little too close. All of a sudden, I feel something warm on my leg. He's pissing on me. And I look, he goes, dude. And Troy's squirting a Gatorade bottle. He's a prankster like that. And so he's very humorous. It's not like it's just a total boring saint. This guy was fun. This guy was mischievous a little bit. The last thing he stole was a Bible. And he told GQ magazine, God thought this was okay. It's about my intentions. That was in 6th grade. When he was in L.A. Growing up, he was doing a lot of bad things. He didn't know any better. He was 8, 9 years old. So that's why he went up to Oregon. It's funny. I didn't talk to his mom, who pretty much abandoned him in Oregon. His brother, there's a lot in there about his brother. His brother was a taller Troy Polamalu, just as athletic, but he got into gangs, and he did go to UTEP and was their leading rusher. But, he was a black sheep of the family. I tried to get him. He wouldn't return my call or text. A couple of his cousins came off as bad in the book, spent half their lives in jail. Anyway, all those people I just mentioned, they all bought the book the first day. And so I can't think of one conversation because it weaves its way. His character, it weaves its way through it all the time. How he watches film. I just think that was my intention for this book. Like Ryan Clark didn't call me back at first, and I wrote him a text. I said, Ryan, my intention for this book is this to be a template for kids. I'm a kid. I'm 60 years old. I still think I'm a kid. Kids of all ages, and I don't want to say young boys playing football. This could be my daughter's on a women's soccer team at Ohio U. The habits, how he went about it, how he went about everything. It should be a staple in every kid who's athletic minded. Doesn't even have to be a college athlete. Just to learn how he did it, his nutrition, his workouts, his habits, his respect for women, his respect for people, his charitable work, his giving, and also pissing on Doug Legursky in the stall.
See, that is something I am so interested in because I do hold Troy to this very, very high standard because of how he is. But I want to hear about him pouring Gatorade on Doug Legursky. I want both of those. I want the confirmation that how good of a guy he is, but I also want to hear some fun stories about Troy because I don't know if we've ever really gotten that.
Well, that's interesting stuff. It's like the Seinfeld episode where James Peterman says, now that's interesting writing. So, yeah, and it weaves its way through it. Shelley Polamalu, who raised him, they couldn't get the L.A. street kid out of him for a year. Salu, the dad, the uncle, said it took 4 or 5 years to get that out of him. And Shelley said, no, just 1 year. But she says she still sees that mischievous twinkle in his eye, like he's gonna go be bad, or something. She still sees that.
What's been your thoughts so far on the Steelers reschedule and all of that that's going on with COVID and everything?
What a mess.
Yeah.
Just to get through this. We knew that this was going to come. Dr. Fauci kept saying it was going to come. This second wave was going to be worse. And here we are. Stephon Tuitt is on the reserve, and I don't know if he'll miss Tuesday's game.
Yeah.
That guy could be the best defensive lineman in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
I know Calais Campbell's not playing, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
But he's not 25 years old like Tuitt is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Tuesday is enough time for Tuitt to get back or not. Probably not. So, I don't like it, but what are you going to do? I don't know what you're going to do.
So some fans have said that the Ravens should forfeit. Some fans say that they should move it to a Week 18 game. Are you of any of that opinion?
Well, I think you want to avoid the Week 18 game if you're a Steeler fan.
Absolutely.
Because they say if anything gets chopped off, then they're going to revert to 8 teams in the playoffs, which means no bye.
Yep.
We all know how important those buys are.
Yeah.
We all know what 10-0 means. It means bye city, baby. Whether you're first or second, it doesn't matter. You get that week off. That's huge. I know it takes you a quarter to get back into it, but usually those teams have overcome that rust.
Right.
Because their legs are feeling good. Everything's feeling good. And you're ready to make that run through the playoffs. So you hate to see that happen. So I prefer them trying to get this in on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then who do they have the following week? Is it
Washington? Steelers have Washington.
Yeah, I guess they're playing better. But that's an NFC game. So it's really not, if they lose that and end up tied with KC I think has an AFC conference loss. So, yeah, I think this is the best that they can come up with. Now, if they can't play Tuesday because more Ravens have it, then I think forfeit. Well, they'll go to Week 18 then. They're not going to forfeit.
Yeah. I would hate to see that happen. With this rivalry coming up, do you have any of like a favorite moment from this rivalry? And if there's a famous Troy moment, I think the obvious one is the pick six.
Well,
is there anything
I'll
else?
tell you a famous Jim Wexell story about that.
Okay, there you go.
The stadium shook. Everybody talks about it in the book. And people talked about it at the game. I wasn't at the game. I got airfare to go to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. It was going to be my first Senior Bowl. I'm a draft expert, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I had to go that year. So the plane's leaving Sunday, and I got to be there. I don't have enough money to waste airfare. If I knew it was going to happen, I would have. So I fly to Mississippi. I got my room was in Mississippi. I go to my room and it's like that old thing where you need rabbit ears and you're holding it over the TV and you're trying to get the static out of your TV. That's how I watched that stupid game instead of my seat at the 50-yard line in the press box while the earth's shaking because of Troy Polamalu. I missed that play. I was in Mississippi, could barely see it. So that's supposed to be my favorite story. It was a disaster.
Was there anyone that was amazing at that Senior Bowl that it was worth it?
No. But there were some guys I spotted. I mean, they drafted Ziggy Hood that year, and I knew a lot about Ziggy from that he did a spin move and he was a 4-3 guy that didn't really fit. So I knew that he didn't fit. Eric Wood was my guy. They needed a center, and they did like Eric Wood. He drafted by Buffalo a couple steps early. So I was all over that. I interviewed Clay Matthews one-on-one. So, it was beneficial. I did learn a lot for a team that was drafting 32nd.
Yeah.
And I knew all about Ziggy Hood. And when someone told me, I had a source that told me Ziggy Hood is a big possibility. I'm like, what? He's a 4-3 guy. We think we can make him. All right. So I have my guy, Eric Wood's the guy, because there's a couple of sources that told me they love Eric Wood. I think this was the year before they drafted Pouncey, but they did need a center. So I hate when I get off my instinct because another source jumped in. So I stuck with Eric Wood. And Ed Bouchette told me, they're going to draft a defensive lineman. I said, yeah, there's a good chance. And he goes, I'm going with this. It was some Samoan name. I forget who it was. I think he went early second. But I said, Ed, if you're going to use a defensive lineman, use Ziggy Hood. I just got a source told me that. So he writes, Steelers going to draft Ziggy Hood. That's my prediction. Well, they did. And apparently Mike Tomlin saw that story in the Post-Gazette and hit the roof. Got in everybody's faces. Who told Bouchette we were drafting Ziggy Hood? Now, I know who told me, and it was one of his coaches. And I'm not going to say, and I never have, but Ed started taking, the first day he's like, hey, thanks, that was a great tip. But then each week and a month passed, Ed, every time he got credit, he forgot about me. It's just
I thank you once again for doing this, and I am so hopeful that as many Steeler nations, and just not even being a Steelers fan, just buy this book, because this is one of the most interesting people that I think that has ever graced the field, and I'm super excited to read this. So go to jimwexell.com and buy the new book, Polamalu. Jim, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening to This Means More. This was a wonderful episode to record. It really was, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Deuce.